It's time for Southern Kentucky's Great Outdoors on ESPN 102.7 FM and 104 The Score. Brought to you by Bowling Green Refrigeration, Heating and Cooling and Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center with your host, Brian Webb. Also starring John Kirby and Sergeant J.D. Williams from Mohawk Outdoors. Josh Honeycutt from Realtree Outdoors. Also made possible by Swagger Bipods. Gary Force Paint and Body Shop. J&K Used Cars on the Bypass. Segments in part by Big & J Long Range Attractants, our national sponsor, and Renegade Marine. Also featuring Realtree's Michael Pendley Small Game Recipes from Realtree Outdoors, Timber 2 Table, Wild Game Recipes, sponsored by Tetra Hearing Devices. Get your edge back and hear the hunt. And all phone interviews via the Line X of Bowling Green hotline. Get ready for all things outdoors. Here's your host, Brian Webb.
Got a great show tonight. Got a Pendley getting ready to get on the Line X hotline here shortly. We're going to pick up with Timber to Table Realtree. John Kirby kicking it in the studio, bearing gifts. He's been doing that for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Thank you, buddy. You're always the man.
Buddy. You can't ever say I didn't give you anything.
That's right. You kept me in Red Bulls, and boys, we know them ain't cheap.
They're not good for you either, so shame on me for buying them for you.
No, it's okay. I know you're trying to get rid of me, but it's one of those things to where we got. I want to talk real quick about this before I talk about my special guest in the studio, because I love him dearly, and he has one of the best businesses in this town, and I want to talk about that. We're going to highlight him a little bit tonight. He's a sponsor of the Sports Web, but I got him in here because he likes this show a little better. But we're going to talk to Mike Cornelius from Post and Electronics coming up shortly. John, real quick, tease up who you got coming on after the first break in Renegade Marine and Fishing.
Yeah, man, a gentleman by the name of Rick Killian. He's been fly fishing for 60 years, Webb. He's forgot more about fishing than I know. And, man, he's just a gentleman. He's a mentor. He's a great human being. Introduces a lot of people to fly fishing, and he's going to be a great guest.
Yeah, I'm looking super forward to that, man. I love learning from people, and
sure.
I'm not a fisherman, but I'm going to get to go with you some, and you've picked it up of late, and you're really enjoying it. So I can't wait for that interview coming up shortly. But Mike Cornelius, welcome to SOKY's Great Outdoors, man.
How's it going?
It's good, and you're no stranger to audio or anything to do with such talk, and it's awesome to see what you all do over at Post. And so later in the show, I'd love to chit-chat a little bit about what folks can do, because you do home entertainment. I mean, you can put anything you want on your boats, and there's a lot of people listening that are watercrafting a lot, especially this year during COVID.
Definitely. This summer's been crazy. Motorcycles, too.
I bet
more
UTVs,
motorcycles.
UTVs and four-wheelers, too, I bet, right?
Yeah, we're starting to get into them, but this has been a weird year for motorcycles. We've done more this year than anything.
I bet.
You could put a sound system on a toilet if you had to.
Yes.
You probably have.
Yes.
Oh,
There's lots of bathrooms in Bowling Green that have.
See, that's what I want. I want the heated towels, and I want Cornelius to come over and just load me up with some subwoofers so we can thump. Hey, we're getting ready to thump and talk about some. You ever eat much squirrel or anything growing up, Mike?
Dude, come on.
He's some city boy. He ain't had it. He's a Bowling Green city boy. All right, we're going to talk to Michael Pendley. He's on the Line X hotline, Line X Bedliners, Roger Gina, Scouts, or Louisville Road at Porter Pike intersection. Get over and see them. Nobody does it better. Great family, very talented. Another talented family, the Pendleys, brought to you by Tetra Hearing. Hear the hunt. Hearing protection doesn't have to suck anymore because the boys at Tetra have figured it out. A couple of ear doctors from Vandy. John is using them as we speak and loving them. Pendley, what's up?
What's going on, guys?
Man, it's good to hear your voice. What's the family been doing this week?
Getting ready. Pyros went nose hunting for a little while yesterday, just a little hayfield close to the house. They weren't flying a lot. Kind of had to dodge the rain a little bit. But other than that, we're just getting ready for bow season to come in and for elk season to come in weekend after this one. So we're staying busy.
Well, what's he more excited about, Michael? Elk season or deer season?
Elk by far.
I figured so.
We've got a pretty decent buck, a nice buck, coming in pretty regular, and he could care less. I mean, he's like, yeah, I might get over there Monday or Tuesday and see if he comes in, but I don't know.
That's great. You know, naturally, when y'all are in eastern Kentucky elk hunting, that buck will be very regular on trail cams.
Oh, yeah. I guarantee you he'll be regular right up until the point that he's ready to start hunting him, and then he'll disappear. But Right now, he's coming in pretty regular right before dark, so that's a good sign.
I've got several deer on a couple different farms, Michael, and one in Ohio that are out of velvet. Y'all seen any of that already? Early?
We had our first one show up that is just starting to shed last night. Got up, checked cameras, checked the pics on phone this morning, and got one that's just starting to split through on the tips.
He's probably clean by now.
Yeah, I guarantee you, when I see him tonight, he'll be clean. Yeah.
Let's hear about the what do you got for a squirrel recipe?
Well, no, not squirrel this week. This week we're doing peppers. I don't know about you guys, but our garden is absolutely busting. Everybody I know, mom and dad, their garden's just bursting at the seams. And everybody's got a lot of jalapeno peppers this time of year. Of course, you can use them for duck poppers. They're great for that. But what we like to do, especially on the big ones, if you get some big jalapenos, we make our own chorizo. A lot of times we'll use venison or pork, or my favorite's kind of a combination of both of those, and grind it up and mix in some cumin, a lot of paprika, some cayenne, just all the stuff that goes into good chorizo. And I've got a recipe. It's up on today's Timber to Table link. There's a link to the chorizo recipe. But what we like to do with the jalapenos is we'll slice them in half lengthwise and dig out the seeds and those veins inside the peppers. That's where all the heat is. Wear gloves while you're doing it. You might not be that sensitive to them. I am. They kind of burn me up, so I always wear gloves when I'm working with jalapenos or habaneros. But you definitely don't want to touch your eye or anything accidentally.
Yeah,
really. Cut them up because that can really get painful,
especially during COVID.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, double whammy.
We should all do that. Maybe we should all just cut up peppers all the time to keep us from touching their face. But you hollow those out. You've got the two halves of the pepper hollowed out lengthwise, and we'll mix up that. We'll brown that chorizo and pull it off the burner. Put a little bit of block of cream cheese in there, and about 8 ounces of queso fresco cheese. It's a Mexican-style crumbling cheese. Comes in a little wheel. You can find it at any grocery that's got Mexican food, Mexican section, and in a lot of the cheese sections, it's pretty common. But you'll want to crumble that up into pretty fine little crumbles. Stir that and the cream cheese into that chorizo, then spoon it into those peppers. Just kind of heap it up on them. We'll put them on the grill, and we'll grill those for about 45 minutes till those peppers are soft and cooked through, and that cheese and chorizo is kind of bubbly. And it makes a really good appetizer. It makes a good side dish. And if you really want to get carried away, you can just eat a bunch of them and call it a meal.
Jalapeno on a stick.
What is chorizo, real quick, Michael? That's something I've always wondered.
I like I knew, but I don't.
Mexican-style sausage. It's heavy on Mexican spices. It's heavy on ancho chili powder, regular chili powder, cumin, all the stuff that you kind of find in taco seasoning. It all goes into chorizo. And, you make it just like you would make your breakfast sausage. You just grind up the meat. And chorizo, I like it to be a little bit on the fatty side if I'm making patties or crumbling it up or stuffing it into casings. So a lot of times I'll mix, 40% venison and 40% pork shoulder. And I'll put that other 20% as pork fat, like back fat off a pig. If we shoot a wild hog or half a kilo hog, or a lot of times butcher shops will have back fat that you can buy. And run all that through the grinder, and then add all your spices in. Like I say, there's a good recipe up on today's Realtree Timber Table post that you can click on, and they'll take you over to it. And you add all those spices in, and use your hands and mix it all in real well. Then I like to run it through a grinder a second time. That really incorporates that seasoning into the meat. And you can leave it at bulk and cook it in patties like you would breakfast sausage, or cook it crumbled like you would for this recipe. Or you can get like the standard, bratwurst pork casings and stuff it for links and grill them or whatever you want to do with them.
I usually see chorizo ground, Michael, when used in other recipes, not in the casing. Is that generally how it is?
You can do it either way. most of the time you'll see it. Well, you see it. It's about 50-50.
Okay.
You see it both ways.
Yeah.
Like I say, if you're doing a recipe that calls for crumbled up like that, just go ahead and buy the bulk. It saves you from having to split the casing apart, dumping it out into the pan. But if you want to put it on the grill, then get the casing, get the links, and grill those. So.
Man, that's good stuff. We got dove season, getting hot, coming right now. It might be open already, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So.
There's not a lot of fields cut, though, Michael. Are there many fields up your way?
No.
No.
We don't have a private field to go to this year. We got a couple of tobacco patches close to the house that they're getting ready to cut. Hopefully, if they cut those and plant some winter wheat cover, we'll get permission to hunt those here in a week or two. We got some silage fields that are just about ready to cut. They usually cut those a little before, the corn's ready to actually pick when they're cutting it all for green silage.
Still some good hunting opportunities, though, Michael, even without the cut
and
fields.
Sometimes the seed fairy stops by.
And then the game warden will come right after that.
And then Brad Bowles.
But you get water sources near where they're roosting, stuff like that.
I had an article yesterday on yesterday'srealtree.com. Some places that you can hunt if you don't have a private field.
Yeah,
you're exactly right. A good water source close to a field, a cut hay field. They're still baling hay up here, and a lot of times if you got a hay field that's full of weeds, and they cut that, all those weed seeds fall. That brings in a lot of birds. If you've got a hemp farmer close to you, those are getting more and more popular, and they're growing hemp for seed. Those are dynamite dove fields. When they harvest that, the equipment they use, it's really not designed for hemp, so it loses quite a bit of seed, like more seed, hemp seed than it would corn or beans when they harvest that. So that just brings in doves by the bucket load if you've got one of those close by. Cattle feedlots, they're pretty attractive to birds. You might not be able to get permission to hunt right on the feedlot, especially if there's cattle in it. You can get, they'll use a flyway where they fly back and forth between the trees and that feedlot.
Yeah.
And you can find a spot on there to set and get some pretty good wing shooting in. So there's lots of places to go even if you don't have the field.
Oh, man, that's good stuff. Michael Pendley, check him out, Timber to Table, Realtree.com. Mike, always a pleasure, man. We'll hook up with you next week, and you can tell us all about your Pendley family adventures over the weekend. I know you're going to have stories.
Sounds good, guys. About that time next week, we'll be packing up and headed out for elk. Get a day or two of scouting in before season comes in Saturday morning.
You got it, man. Linex Hotline, always a pleasure. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you, Pendley.
Thanks, guys.
All right, buddy. Talk to you next week. All right, Mike Cornelius, we got a few minutes here. We're getting ready. I want to tease it up, though. Now, how much fishing? You like to fish, don't you, Mike? You're a fisherman, aren't you?
A little bit.
A little bit. You dibbled and dabbled. So what was there to do on the streets, the concrete jungle of Bowling Green back in the day? Because you and I, you got a couple years on me, but I can totally remember you. Warren Central boy. Now, did you graduate with Brad Bowles? You know Brad, don't you?
Yeah, I'm older than he is.
You're older than Brad? Man, you are older than Methuselah.
No. That's right.
So, before we go to break, we're getting ready to talk fishing. What can a guy, let's say a guy goes up Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center, gets him a brand new Z21, big 20-footer, beautiful boat, 21-footer, and comes down here and says, you know what, Mike, I want to be able to take the kids out skiing when I'm not bass fishing. What's my setup need to be for the best sound I can provide?
Well, you'd want to get some tower speakers so they can hear it in the back when they're on their board or on their skis, and then put some type of stereo system if they don't already have one that you can stream music from your phone via Bluetooth.
Oh, that's the way it's got to be like that nowadays, right?
You don't even have to really have a stereo unit in the boat. You can have a Bluetooth module.
Yeah, you don't need a receiver these days.
Right.
I mean, you can go straight to your Spotify or whatever you like to use.
Yep.
You got all your songs downloaded on. And, John, that's good stuff right there. I remember the first iPod I ever saw, John had it, and it had 3,500 songs on it.
Really? I had it?
Remember that thing?
Man, it must have been a hand-me-down.
It was your dad's. It
had
had 4,000 songs on it, man.
That's wild. I didn't get my first CD till I was like 25, so it surprises me I had the first iPod.
That's so funny.
We had a customer, he had 250,000 on his.
Holy moly!
And you know who he is. I'll tell you who he is, but I couldn't believe it.
I got a feeling
back in the day when it first
is.
came out.
That's Casey. That's his. Our producer Casey Warner. That's his cup of tea right there.
250,000? Are you kidding?
That's insane. I mean, I didn't know there was that many songs out there. That's
me either.
I mean, you're getting like garage band stuff on there.
The big old thick iPods,
folks.
Back in the day.
That's good stuff. We love having Mike Cornelius. Post and Electronics is right there on Broadway. He's going to be hanging out with us the whole show, so we're going to spend some time with him during some of the breaks here before we get on. But right now, we're going to take a quick one, come back, and we're going to have Ron Killian. Right? Is that how I say it?
Rick.
Rick. Leave it to me to mess up a name, John. I mean,
Hey,
can
man.
you believe that? That's
As
got
many
to be the first
things as
time.
you're juggling, and you get a buy on
I
that.
appreciate you, buddy. And don't go anywhere because this is one you don't want to miss. You don't want to miss any of them, but this was going to be so heartfelt, and I cannot wait to talk to this gentleman, John's good friend that he fly fishes with. Stay right here. SOKY's Outdoors, 102.7.
This is something here, Luann, to have you in the truck with me and Earl. Normally, you're just calling us on the phone.
Yep.
See, that's why me and Earl had us an idea. We said, let's bring Luann with us next round. Mm-hmm. Luann, we's a-hunting for something that's ancient and rich in tradition in the bluegrass state, the ever-elusive snipe.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Eugene going to go get the snipe hunting area set up, and then you ease your way back on down here after you park the truck here, darling, all right?
Sure thing, honey. Those boys think I'm going to go park this truck. I'm headed home to get my Carrier air conditioner installed that I've been waiting for the past 5 years. Snipe hunting my rear end. The only hunting I'm going to do is for Earl's checkbook to pay for it all.
So Luann turned to the experts herself for a Carrier unit from Bowling Green Refrigeration, Heating, and Cooling because she knew your comfort is their concern. And while Earl and Eugene are somewhere stranded in the woods, snipe hunting, Luann is comfortable at home with her new Carrier unit from Bowling Green Refrigeration, Heating, and Cooling.
Hello, this is Kirk Tinsley, the principal broker of Trilike Executive Realty. One thing that 2020 has taught us all is how very important home is to each of us. At Trilike Executive Realty, helping you buy and sell that home has been our mission for over 19 years. Interest rates are at historic lows and the market is red hot. Trilike Executive Realty will always put your family first in reaching your goals of buying and selling real estate. Give us a call today at 270-781-3377 or visit us on the web at realestateinbowlinggreen.com.
We finished all your paint and body work. Take a look.
Yeah, looks good. Let me take a closer.
Oh, no. Sorry, you can't.
Why not?
Social distancing. We require all clients to keep at least 6 foot away from our work.
What? No, I want to see it up close. Hey, is that paint uneven?
Sir, please. 6 feet.
Wait, a ding's still there.
Fellas, put another mask on this guy.
Avoid a social distance paint job at Gary Force Paint and Body Shop. iCar Gold Shop certified with a lifetime warranty. 311 Vanderbilt Drive behind the Scottsville Road Post Office.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
It's time to go fishing with Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center, 415 Commerce Drive, Litchfield, Kentucky, on SOKY's Great Outdoors.
Welcome back to the show. It's with great honor that I introduce my good friend, John Kirby, his good friend, Mr. Rick. Say his last name, John. I'm terrible.
Killian, Rick. Am I butchering that?
There it is.
That's right, Killian.
Awesome. That English paid off.
Long-time fisherman, aren't you?
Mr. Rick, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, you're kind of light, though.
Got you. I'll try to speak up a little bit. Man, such a pleasure to have you. Thanks for taking the time out to come on with us and talk some fly fishing.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, let's just get right into it and unwrap it, Rick. First thing you do when you get stream side, first thing you do, it's probably not take your tackle out, is it?
That's correct. Observe. That's the main thing. A lot of things to look at.
Yeah, so you'll go down to the water and check. And what are you looking for?
Well, activity of birds, insects, fish activity, obviously, weather conditions, water conditions, myriad of things, really.
And if you're fishing a stream you're familiar with, Rick, you're still going to go down there and look, right? Because even pockets that you know hold fish, those pockets can change and the water can change drastically depending on water levels, right?
That is correct, yes. It happens with a rainstorm, drought, anything.
Yeah, one of the big things that I'm really kind of delving into now and trying to learn is just, learning how to read water and what that water is going to do to your fly, and what that water is going to do to your fly line, which in turn affects your fly, right? Talk about that a little bit.
Well, current, you've got a variety of currents in there, both laterally and horizontally. The current is slower at the top and slower at the bottom, faster in the middle. So it's going to move your line in different ways. You'll have side currents coming in different seams, and the seams and the slow water are where the fish are going to be looking to feed.
And that's a huge part of the puzzle, right? I mean, if you're really wanting to get better at fly fishing, that's a big part of it, isn't it? Learning how to read that water.
That's right. You got to realize that the fish want to be protected from current, calories in, calories out.
Yep.
But they want to have good access to food, which is generally flowing through the faster water. So they'll be on the edges, the periphery of fast water, slow water. And whether that's a seam or behind a rock where it has protected soft water, or along the edge of a bank where it's also slower water by virtue of friction from the bottom and the sides and the top of the water. So anything that'll protect the fish, that give them access to the food and protect them from predators, that's where they'll be.
Yeah, before we get into kind of how you go about picking the fly for the day and the color and all that, let's talk a little bit about trout are generally, when you spoke of predators just a minute ago, they're big prey. They're probably looking up in the sky, right? So it's so important, I think, for new fly fishermen to really kind of look at trout fishing like hunting. You're really trying to be low profile. You don't want these trout to see you, right?
That is correct, yes. And that involves both your movement, the degree of movement, and your clothing as well. You don't want bright clothing that's going to stand out against a woodsy background, if you will.
Yep.
Quite often, camo is a good way to go.
Sure, absolutely, and that's something a lot of fly fishermen probably already have at home. Let's talk about flies, Mr. Rick. What are the factors that go in, and how do you figure out which fly to use at any particular time and condition?
All right, well, first off, to make a fly valid to me, it's got to have movement and flash. Again, there's going to be exceptions. Low water in the summer, you don't want too much flash. But regardless, movement and flash will be a good attractor for the fish. Color relates to what is hatching, what's indigenous to the water, and I guess what they tend to be feeding on at the time. That would relate to the time of day. Generally, browns, the color of the bottom of the stream is going to be the color of the predominant insects. They're camouflaged, as are the trout. So sandy bottom, light colored, muddy bottom, darker colored, detritus bottom, very dark colored. So it can be all sorts of different things in there.
Awesome. Yeah. What about you get out there and you start out with a particular fly and you're not picking up any fish or strikes? How long are you generally going to stick with the color you first chose?
I would stick with the color it's kind of hard to quantify it, but I would stick with the color. I'd look at my height, my depth first. Chances are you're not fishing deep enough. Either cast it further upstream to secure more depth at your target location, or put some weight on, which I really don't recommend, but a lot of people will do that. So check the depth first, then check the location. It may be that you judge the location incorrectly. I really am hesitant to change flies rapidly. I may change flies 2 or 3 times a day. Yesterday when we were out, I changed flies once, and that was it.
Gotcha.
It was kind of a cloudy water. I went from a lighter fly to a darker fly. That was it.
Right. Gotcha. Let's talk about the actual fly casting, Rick. That's what a lot of people get into fly fishing for, I think, is they see this kind of artistic movement.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Very
absolutely. Cool. Or maybe somebody watches the movie The River Runs Through It, and they see him doing that and they want to get at it. But nonetheless, what are some of the most important fly casts to you personally, Rick? And then kind of speak about, in this area, South Central Kentucky, we're fishing small streams with a lot of tree overhang. So talk to us a little about how that influences your fly cast as well.
Well, okay, the basic cast, the front and back, the 10 to 2 o'clock, if you will, casting, that's the basic. What I do here with the lower tree cover is I do a lot of side-to-side casting, and then to get across the stream, I'll do a reach cast, which will throw the fly perpendicular to the way the stream is flowing, and that'll get it right where I want it. Sometimes I would use a roll cast, but now in other cases, like the tributaries of the Cumberland, you have much bigger streams.
Yep.
And in that regard, I would use a full-blown bass taper and cast it, to beat the wind and to get it out there.
You mentioned roll cast, Rick. Talk to the listeners out there that might not be familiar with that, and a situation when you might use the roll cast because you don't have room behind you.
Well, that's it, exactly. When you don't have room behind you, you want to load the rod and get the fly out there. And what you do is just basically lift the rod up, pull the line down, and push the rod forward, and it will, as the name sounds, just roll it out there, and it will just go out exactly where you want it. But I do prefer the reach cast more so than the roll cast.
Gotcha. Something you and I, Rick, have talked about is, and this can be an expensive sport. I mean, you can pretty much go to a fly shop and spend as much money as you could possibly want. But for the folks out there that want to get into fly fishing, kind of talk about an economical way to get into fly fish. You don't have to have all this fancy gear, do you?
Great, yeah.
No, you don't. And you don't need a super expensive rod either. You will get used to your own rod, and it will become very functional for you. So an inexpensive rod will work just fine. And you'll just get used to it, like your own bicycle. You will get used to riding it, and it's going to work fine for you. So it doesn't take a lot to get into it. And once you're in it, it's relatively inexpensive to keep it going. Flies are relatively inexpensive. There's no real peripheral equipment that's necessary. A lot of it's for show. You don't need that. It doesn't catch fish. So just, use common sense and improvise and make do where you can. And you can get into it extremely inexpensively.
Rick, I want you to know you've got a natural radio voice, man. I mean, it is so good. It reminds me of some of the old play-by-play baseball or something like that.
Really?
It really is good. You could have went down that road. I wanted to ask you a quick one for you before John closes up. We got a few more minutes here left, but John's really covered. You and he have really covered the technical side of it. I've learned more about fly fishing in the last 12 minutes than I've ever learned in my life. And I can't imagine what spending time with you would be like. But John's touched
you'll
on...
have to go with it.
Well, I'd love to, and I appreciate you saying that. I'm definitely going to take John and you up on that. That would be a wonderful time. But I want to kind of lean towards, how did you get started in fly fishing, and what really did you gravitate to that? What are some of the things that got you the passion that you have now?
Well, I really kind of think it was an old tackle shop that was in town. It was a kind of place like almost a Norman Rockwell picture, if you will. The pot-bellied stove in the back, bunch of overstuffed chairs, old guys sitting around just talking fly fishing, brown trout hanging up on the wall, and they just tolerated this kid in there, which was me. And I was looking at all the flies, constantly picking through them, and probably being a nuisance, but it just really got me into it. It was the environment I wanted. It was the whole picture that I wanted, not just the fly. But it was a great picture.
Awesome.
Just progressed.
Awesome question there, Webb, and man, you really painted a picture there, Rick.
Yes, you did.
Let's talk about real quick just how important having a mentor is. I'm not sure. I know you were largely self-taught.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about having a mentor. And one of the great things about this day and age, if you aren't able to find a mentor, there's a lot of instructionals out there on YouTube and other platforms where you can learn and go out and teach yourself how to fish if you have to.
Well, that is true, and that is good. Learning videos, books, YouTube, etc., is extremely valuable. But the most important time, and especially in conjunction with a mentor, is time on the stream. That's the only way you're really going to learn. All the learning from videos and books, yeah, it gives you good insight. But actually seeing it and realizing all the things you have to look at, you're not going to find it all in books. Like in the evening, you'll start seeing birds dipping down to the water. A lot of people would ignore that, but that's really insects hatching off the water, upon which the trout will be feeding. So these all fit together. You see an otter swimming along. All right, you know that is going to be feeding on trout. Those trout are going to be hightailing and hiding in little spots. So that spot is going to be useless for a while. But I don't know how I got off on this tangent, but observing everything, that's what's important.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. Yeah, putting those puzzle pieces together, isn't it, Rick? Just really kind of taking it all in.
Yeah, but being out there is essential. That's where you're really going to learn it.
Absolutely. Rick, we can't thank you enough for spending the time with us today. And can you please come back in the future and do this again?
I would be more than happy to.
Well, we would appreciate that. And I can already see a new spinoff show, John Kirby and Rick Killen's fly fishing hour, and I'd be zoned in on it, man. So great job.
That sounds good to me. I'd be more than happy to do it.
I think we got to get that in the works, man. Appreciate you so much.
Okay.
Look forward to having you.
Talking to y'all.
Thanks so much, Rick.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you. Oh my goodness, how great was that? I mean, he could have went on and on about it, but I'm telling you, natural radio voice. I knew John Kirby did 6 years ago. I knew he had a natural radio voice. I lassoed him and got him in here on the microphone. I don't know how I got him in here, but by golly, I'm so glad we did, because it's been great stuff, and that was really good. And that kind of goes along Mike Cornelius, Post and Electronics. That's what we do every weekend here, man. It's so much fun.
I don't know if I know as much as he does about what I do, but
if I did, I'd be the man. You are the absolute king of what you do, right there on Broadway. And I love the building. You've been in there, John. You've been in Poston.
Absolutely.
I mean,
we were talking about that.
So cool. I took you in, Casey. You've been in.
Yeah, it's a neat place.
It
hasn't changed since we opened it.
And I don't want it to ever change. I mean, it's just awesome. But you have expanded, and you guys can take on even more jobs than you used to, which is probably making production for you just flow.
Absolutely.
Always busy. You
got more room. I don't know how we made it without it.
I don't know how you did either. That's what I was thinking the other day when I was in there. Folks, don't go anywhere. We're coming back. Josh Honeycutt on the Linex Hotline for the Big and J hunting segment. He and John Kirby will talk a lot about it because bow season right on top of us, isn't it, Kirby?
Absolutely. Saturday, man. Can't get here fast enough.
It couldn't be any closer, could it? Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back. SOKY's Great Outdoors, 102.7.
Watching new movies on demand demands Post and Electronics. Now that Hollywood's skipping the theater, choose Postons for big picture, big clarity, and big screen sound at home. While the theater's closed, Post and Electronics renovated and expanded, bringing Southern Kentucky more at home and on the go. It's what they've done since 1974, just bigger. Forget tickets for the family. Think of what you'll save on popcorn. On Demand is here to stay. For your home theater, demand Post and Electronics across from Firestone on Broadway Avenue.
J&K Used Cars is the place to go when you need a quality automobile at an affordable price. Stop in at 670 on the Bypass in Bowling Green and see this week's special. The 2015 Toyota Tacoma 4-wheel drive pickup comes with good mile sport wheel step bar, TRD package, and more for only $24,995. Hurry in because at that price it won't last long. J&K Used Cars, with over 40 years of serving the community with affordable prices on quality automobiles. Visit J&K on the Bypass and online at jnkusedcars.com.
Okay, gun owners, listen up. You love to shoot, so you have to check out Tetra. Don't settle for big, hot, uncomfortable earmuffs or foam plugs. Developed by 2 hearing doctors, Tetra Alpha Shield is the best sounding, most comfortable, and easiest to use, period. Tetra is more than a hearing protection, it's hearing perfection. Get your edge back. Try Tetra risk-free for 30 days. Call now and mention SportsWeb and receive $100 off your order. 615-618-9904 or anytime at tetrahunt.com.
Welcome back. SOKY's Great Outdoors. Hanging out in the studio, Casey Warner producing, John Kirby, the man of the hour, and Mike Cornelius from Post Electronics. We got another good one on the Line X hotline, and I know he's geared up for this weekend. Mr. Josh Honeycutt, Realtree Outdoors. What's up, Josh?
How you guys doing?
Hey, man, I got a bunch of yard work. Could you help me this Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, I think I'll be busy.
I figured you would. Hopefully I am too, buddy. What's happening?
It's going to take some serious business to pull me away from current plans on Saturday afternoon.
I figured as such, and good to hear it, man. Well, we've got a good topic this week, an article you wrote recently about 10 different natural blinds, right? Am I butchering that?
Yeah, it's a pretty cool little deal that I used to do it a lot, growing up, and then, being in the outdoor industry, I got to where I was spending a lot of time in tree stands and manufacture ground blinds, and it just got to that point where last season I kind of wanted to get back to my roots.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Looking back, growing up as a young hunter, using natural blinds, that's something I did almost every hunt, and it's a lot of fun to kind of get back to your roots and enjoy that way of hunting again, isn't it, Josh?
Yeah, it is pretty fun, and it's one of the things where you really get into how hunters used to do things, and it's just one of those deals where, like I said, I'm kind of repeating myself, but it's just fun to get back to your roots and do things a little bit differently.
Absolutely. With that in mind, what's the first few you got for us?
Yeah, the first one that comes to mind is big boulders, big rock piles. Last season, I had a pretty cool hunt where I filled my doe tag, and it was a big boulder. It was a big thing. That sucker was huge. It was probably about 4 foot tall, probably about 3 or 4 foot wide. And I think you actually were there for one of the hunts in that particular spot.
Yep.
And just kind of where a bunch of boulders were kind of stacked up around each other, and there was a spot in the middle where you can kind of just crouch down, and it was just a natural ground blind. And I hunted there quite a bit last season.
Man, it was an awesome setup. It was almost like those boulders were put there for that reason. It's cool to think, too, maybe 100 years ago or more, some of our ancestors might have used those boulders the same way we did that day.
Yep. My only thing when it comes to hunting behind boulders and rocks like that, especially if you're drawing a bow, definitely don't draw that bow while that arrow is or the bow is pointed toward a boulder, because that's a recipe for disaster if the arrow accidentally loosens or if you have to let down and that broadhead hits a rock right in front of you, that's not a good deal. So make sure you're pointing away from a boulder when you're drawing your bow, and definitely make sure that your broadhead or arrow or bolt or muzzle or whatever you're hunting with is clear of that boulder too. Whenever you do take a shot, that's my only advice when it comes to that.
Yeah, getting in there when you first get in there, especially the first time you've hunted it, Josh, pulling that bow back to make sure you have room, make sure there's no obstructions behind you, or shouldering that weapon to make sure you can do it comfortably. That's probably a pretty good idea, isn't it?
Yeah, and same whenever an animal comes out. If what I did, there was an opening in that blind where there was no boulders. There was boulders on 3 sides, and so when I drew on that doe, I crouched down, drew my bow while pointing it away from all of the rocks through that gap where there was no rocks or anything like that, and then slowly raised up and pivoted around to where I was, aiming toward the deer.
Just like Rambo raised up out of the water that time. What's the next one you got for us, Josh?
Yeah, the next one on the list is another good one, and it's probably the most common one that people use these days, and that's brush pile.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that I have used in the recent past, and and something that can work very well. Tell us, kind of expand on that one for us.
Yeah, I've bow and gun hunted from brush piles and down logs quite a bit. It's a perfect option for public land hunters, where you can't cut trees, limbs, or other vegetation to build a blind. If there's a natural blowdown or a natural deadfall, or, maybe the land managers have come in and pushed up a bunch of trees from where a storm went through, whatever it might be, and you can even make your own, technically. If you can round up as many dead trees and limbs as possible, you can craft your own brush pile. And there you have a free ground blind and a pretty effective one at that.
Absolutely, no question. Well, what's the next one on the list you got for us, Josh?
I love cedar trees.
Yep.
Cedar trees were made for deer hunters. White deer eat white cedar just a little bit. They're not going to eat red cedar and other varieties of cedars. They will eat white cedar late in the season, but they're perfect for deer hunters, for blinds. Exceptional locations for waiting for deer. Some cedars are already crafted in a manner where a hunter needs all you got to do is sit down and start hunting. But to take it really one step further, you can, if you're on private land, you can cut a hole in cedars by removing enough limbs to sit back against the trunk, and you got good cover on your left and right. But if you want to craft your own blind, you can definitely, again, on private land, cut enough cedar limbs to build a cedar blind in whatever location you want to put it in. And it's probably the best brush material when it comes to brushing in the blind, whether it be a natural blind or a manufactured, hub-style blind that you buy on the market.
Absolutely. Hunting those cedar trees is kind of like opening a cedar closet, too. The smell is amazing. I love it. With that said, we got 5 or 6 more here, Josh. Let's talk about them.
Yeah, single trunk trees are great. I mean, I'm sure there's tons of hunters who have killed deer by sitting up against a big oak tree. I don't know how many, but I'm sure it's a ton.
Yep.
But I bet my last dollar that there's been a lot, just as many probably, historically speaking, deer killed by people setting up against a trunk or leaning up against a tree trunk or something like that, as there have been other manufactured ground blinds. But it's just one of those spots where it's really good, and kind of spin off of that, split trunk trees or single trees that split at the base, turn into split trunks, or multiple trees that are grouped close together. Those are really good, acceptable spots to sit and shoot a deer from too. You might want to add a little extra cover if you think you're not concealed enough or it's not a big tree trunk. Again, especially for gun hunting, it's not so much good for bow hunting. But a single or split trunk tree is solid if you're sitting down and being pretty still as a gun hunter.
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually killed a couple of deer sitting on an old down split trunk tree as a kid with a bow, and man, what some great memories that was. What's some others on the list, Josh? Natural ground blinds.
Creek banks is another one. I love hunting creek banks, and some of these are pristine spots to shoot a deer from. In my experience, the ideal scenario includes a shallow or dry creek or branch that, maybe has a 4 to 5 foot bank. If it borders a field or a clearing or other good hunting spot, it kind of allows a hunter to sit or stand and watch the target area, for passing game. This is especially good for gun hunters. When it's time for the shot, all you got to do is raise up above the bank line and vegetation line and make sure there are no obstructions in the line of fire, and then make that shot. But it's definitely a solid option, and kind of similar to that, another one is ditches. Ditches are another, they're perfect for entry and exit routes, but they also make solid hunting spots too. It kind of puts you in a low spot, so sometimes you got to really be careful when you're in these low spots like creeks and ditches. You really have to pay extra attention what's beyond your target, because generally you're at a lower level shooting upward. So you want to make sure that there's a really good bank, really good backdrop, safe backdrop beyond your target, and you're not shooting up into the air, because especially gun hunting, you definitely want to make sure that there's a good safe backdrop for that bullet to pass through and land in, and it's not soaring through there for a mile or two. But if you're in banks and creeks and you have a good solid backdrop beyond your target, creeks are good. And again, like I said, ditches are good too. These are great entry and exit routes. They conceal the bulk of your body when you're moving, and even when you're just standing there. And, if needed, it allows hunters to move if the situation calls for it. And when it comes time to shoot, just, again, be sure the barrel or broadhead is clear of all vegetation. You got a safe backdrop, and there you go. It's another good spot.
Yeah, even irrigation ditches would fit in that well too, Josh. We don't have that a lot in our neck of the woods, but some areas of the country those are prevalent and would work out well.
For sure, and a similar option to those is, especially out west, it's very common for bow hunters to dig ditches, and they'll actually dig ground blinds that are below the ground level. So they'll dig a 3 or 4 or 5 or however deep foot hole and stand in it. And that's very common, especially for those who go out and hunt pronghorn, in the wide open where you have no option but to dig a hole. And it's not as common as a lot of other things out there, but it's definitely used quite a bit, and something that even we can take advantage of here in Kentucky as whitetail hunters.
Absolutely,
like a foxhole.
Yeah, there you go. Those folks out west aren't having to deal with the tree roots and stuff that we would to dig a ditch. That would take all day for some of us hunting in woods. We got 3 more, Josh?
Yeah, crop field edges is another one that's common around here.
Yep.
Warren County, Barron County, all the surrounding counties, there's a lot of crops, a lot of corn. Deer commonly travel along these field edges, especially inside field corners where perpendicular tree lines meet. If there's tall standing crops, such as corn especially, if they meet these and you've got enough, a gap there to have a deer within 10, 20 yards, you obviously don't want to have them walking by you at 5 feet. But, if there's enough gap between tree lines and the crop field edges, you can really take advantage of that because deer travel those edges. And, if they're traveling within range of the cornfield edge and the tree line edge, either one, you can just tuck in, in either side, just inside the timber. Or just inside the corn. I've had a lot of success hunting right on the edges of cornfields, standing cornfields, because those make natural ground blinds. Standing corn, if you get 1 or 2 rows back in there, you're going to disappear pretty quick.
Absolutely, and we know deer are edge creatures. They are creatures of the edge habitat. What's another one, Josh?
Another one is grass clumps and edges. We were just talking about deer being edges. Large clumps of grass and thick edges make great hides for hunters. You flatten out a spot to sit, break just enough stems off to the front, left, right for shot opportunities, and keep enough of those stems standing to remain concealed. But you're good. Excuse me, I had to sneeze there. But you're good as soon as you break open, enough of those to have a shot opportunity. And, again, you just want to leave enough that you have cover.
Yep, great stuff, man. What's the last one you got for us?
The last one I've got is stone walls, and, while most stone walls aren't natural, these are really common up in the Northeast and the northern part of the country. Stone walls are very common in the Northeast and New England, northern most states. But we even have them around here to a degree. One particular property that I hunt in Hart County has a lot of stone walls on it, and these are old, dating back to the 1800s. And, we won't get into the history of why those walls are there, but they are common, even throughout the South. So, if you can use those stone walls, because usually they're anywhere from 3 to 4 feet high, 5 feet high, and they make great entry and exit routes because if deer are bedding on one side or the other or spend time on one side or the other, you just use, the opposite side to walk along and it conceals you. But, again, it also makes for a good natural blind. If you know that deer are coming out on one side or the other, you can, plop down on the opposite side and then just kind of wait for your opportunity.
Absolutely, man. That's great stuff, Josh. I will just throw a couple out real quick. I know we're running short on time, and these aren't all natural, but hay bales can be a great one. Josh and I made good use of that last year, both killing bucks in Ohio out of a hay bale blind. Sinkholes can be good. The caveat to that is to be safe. Don't jump in a never-ending sinkhole. Fallen trees. I think Josh mentioned
Alice in Wonderland.
But farm machinery can be dynamite too, especially farm machinery that sits for long periods of time. It can be dynamite. Old barns and irrigation ditches, but Josh mentioned that also.
Yeah, and if you want to read more about this particular topic, I wrote an entire feature on it. It's on OutdoorLife.com. You can go check that out and get more details, additional details that we haven't covered here, and get a little bit more info on it. But yeah, it's definitely fun. Gets back to your roots a little bit. You can kind of basically hunt like people used to hunt, probably back at least 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And whereas it's not so common these days, it is fun to get back and do things a little bit old school.
Well, I can say firsthand, Mike Cornelius, I've seen Josh Honeycutt make one of these natural blinds. And, I've never seen – you incorporated everything around you, Josh. I mean, it was a down tree back on Kirby's property, and you went and got this and that, and you were finding everything. And I mean, within a matter of minutes, I mean, you were just covered. I mean, you wouldn't have been able to. A turkey would not have seen you when they came by.
Yeah. I mean, it helps. I mean, having a commercial ground blind, they obviously do what they're supposed to do. They conceal you, but and John and I's experience, I know I can speak for him too because we've hunted so much together. We have a lot better luck whenever we're brushing those ground blinds in. Especially hunting bigger, mature deer, and they just seem to accept it a little bit better if you brush those in really well and you just don't have a big square tent, hanging out right there in their corridor. But yeah, it's fun and it's different and something that can definitely be effective if utilized correctly.
We got a couple minutes left, so I want both of you to answer this question for me, Josh, on the Line X hotline, John Kirby in the studio. Bow season this weekend, what would you tell the novice guy, the amateur? What would be each of your one tip as they go into the woods this weekend?
Yeah, man, I guess I'll start, and this one might not be well received by a lot of people, but if you're after a mature buck and come Saturday afternoon, the conditions aren't right. I know it goes against everything you've been waiting for since the last deer season, but sitting out opening day, that's something I've done before. I hate doing it, but if conditions aren't right, it's something you have to do if mature bucks are the end game.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, and I'm going to go on the flip side. That was the passive tip. I'm going to go with the aggressive tip, and we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just going to harp on it again. Don't be afraid to go all out, and that even if that means hunting of a morning on opening morning. If you've had trail cameras out or been glassing of a morning at daylight, and you've got a pretty good pattern on a deer, and you think that you can get in there without bumping deer, both that target deer and other deer as well. If you think you can make a play on it and have pretty good odds of success without screwing things up, don't be afraid to hunt those morning sets either.
Josh Honeycutt, everybody. John Kirby, I look forward to it every Wednesday. I know you do as well. Josh, good luck this weekend, brother, and we'll hook up again next Wednesday unless you just got to get in the stand or something.
Sounds good.
All right, everybody, check him out. Midwest Outdoors Realtree. John and he both are great writers, and you can read and learn this stuff.
Midwest Whitetail.
Yeah, Midwest Whitetail. What did I say?
Midwest Outdoors, I think.
Which is a thing, but it's not what we're looking at.
That's right.
And that happens. Hey, we're going to come back after the break. We're going to hang out with Mike Cornelius for a few minutes, pick his brain on the best audio out there for your car, for your duck blind, whatever you want to put it at. But don't go anywhere. Come back and talk to Post and Electronics. Historic business here in downtown Bowling Green, Kentucky. ESPN 102.7.
Watching new movies on demand demands Post and Electronics. Now that Hollywood's skipping the theater, choose Postons for big picture, big clarity, and big screen sound at home. While the theater's closed, Post and Electronics renovated and expanded, bringing Southern Kentucky more at home and on the go. It's what they've done since 1974, just bigger. Forget tickets for the family. Think of what you'll save on popcorn. On Demand is here to stay. For your home theater, demand Post and Electronics across from Firestone on Broadway Avenue.
Can you hear the hunt? You will with Tetra. Designed by hearing doctors and avid hunters, Tetra offers premium hearing enhancement and protection, programmed for your specific hearing loss. Pinpoint turkeys gobbling, the big bucks slipping behind you, or protect your ears in the duck blind. If you want your edge back, try Tetra risk-free for 30 days. Call now and mention SportsWeb and receive $100 off your order. 615-618-9904 or anytime at TetraHunt.com. Tetra isn't just hearing protection, it's hearing perfection. It's summer, and Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center loves seeing everyone on the water with a smile. However, with so many sales and happy customers, coupled with the current backlog of new party cruisers and bass boats, our inventory is low compared to normal, but our morale is high. Thank you for your business, but most of all, your trust and loyalty to Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center. We appreciate everyone's patience and patronage. With high call volume and inventory harder to stock, rest assured our staff is doing all they can to serve our clients at 415 Commerce Drive in Litchfield. Call 270-259-0001, online at renegademarine.net.
Not all spray-in is created equal. For example, spray-in honey. Why are all these bees following me? Or maybe spray-in tanning.
Hey, you missed a spot there on your face. Oh, that's bad.
See Line-X Bowling Green for spray and bed liners and Line-X truck gear. It's the next level of complete tough gear for your truck. B&W gooseneck hitches, toolboxes, step bars, and WeatherTech door mats. Gift cards now available. Easy, affordable, and rugged. Line-X. Check out more at linexbowlinggreen.com.
Gary Force Paint and Body Shop stands with Southern Kentucky in this pandemic because they know if you've ever driven in Bowling Green, you can survive anything. A natural name change? I just don't see a one there. It's just I-6, an entire Fountain Square renovation. Oh, there's a spot. Park over there. And, of course, the roundabout.
Hey, I think I finally got this whole roundabout thing down.
We made it through that, and we'll make it through this. Together. Gary Force Paint and Body Shop. Bowling Green's iCar Gold Certified Body Shop that works with all major insurance. Behind the post office on Vanderbilt Drive.
I am Southern Kentucky Great Outdoors. I am your spirit of the wild, my brother. God bless America. God bless Kentucky. God bless working hard, playing hard American families in the asset column. We are blood brothers.
Welcome back. Uncle Ted telling you, tune in. SOKY's Great Outdoors every Wednesday. Casey Warner on the 1s and 2s. Going to be my big announcement for that real quick. For those of you high school footballers, John, my new co-host this year is Casey Warner,
I saw that, man. How much fun are y'all going to have?
Oh, my. You have to come hang out with
Dude,
us.
for sure. That's a good
We'd love to have you come by and hang out.
You buy me a hot dog and I'm there.
Hopefully there will be concessions and stands. I don't know about all that yet, but we're going to be there in rare form. Right now we got a guy who's used to the top-of-the-line sound. I mean, HD these days, whatever you want. Mike Cornelius and Postal Electronic can do that for you. They're over 875 Broadway, historic building. Mike, thanks for hanging out with us today, man.
My pleasure. I feel like a smarter person.
No, yeah, well, not because of me. You know that's not.
I feel like I can go out and I can go catch a fish.
You might be able
fishing. I can go deer hunting.
Yeah, you can pull that bow back, make contact. John teach you how to shoot a bow. Man, I'll tell you. First of all, there's a lot of businesses, John, here in town that Mike has put his touch on, and his team and his staff. What are some of the places? Because, I mean, we've all seen work done by people that, you know, there's wires hanging out, there's drywall peeled off, and it doesn't even sound that good. You know something's not hooked up right. Somebody's got something in the wrong place. Never the case with Mike Cornelius. You don't leave a job until it's tip-top, man, and you can go, no double dogs. Give us a few more places to look at that work.
Yeah, we've been lucky to be hooked up with them guys, and we do all the rafferties, of course. We've gotten lucky, done some work with Mr. B's, done a video wall up there. So we got quite a few
and you
nice
go all
places.
over, too. I mean, you're in Tennessee, you're in like all parts of Kentucky.
We go wherever people want us to go.
That's right, man. What is the most, technically, what's the hardest job? Like if you go to bid something at somebody, what's the worst thing somebody can throw at you? Like outdoor kitchen or outdoor TVs? Is that hard to do? I mean, what's the most complicated thing? Because you're a genius at this stuff.
Well, outdoor stuff is a little more difficult because, you know, their expectations and your expectations, you got to be on the same page because to somebody, their whole threshold of what sounds good might be different from yours, or what's loud, what's not loud. You know, they might be people that, hey, I want a 10,000 watt system. You're like, really? 10,000 watts?
So basically
you don't need
wasting a lot of
watts.
wattage,
You know,
right?
so, you know, you got to do a lot of educating, then, you know, come up with a plan that both of you can agree on.
I mean, what are some of the big factors, I mean, as far as like, you know, in the studio here, it's supposedly as good as we can get it. Is that same in home audio?
Oh yeah, because you don't want to hear the room, you want to hear the speakers. And acoustical treatments like on the wall over there, you know, that's what they do is to deaden the sound so that you don't hear the room. And more, you know, you want to limit reflected sound. You know, like in a home theater system, you know, you want all your sound in the front to be direct and non-reflecting, but then in the back, you want it to be opposite, you know, so that you have envelopment in the back and you have sound everywhere, surround sound.
That's too
so it's
cool.
Kind of two different things working
together. Yeah, and you know, your sound bars are cool, but they're nothing about what they won't get the absolute best experience that you can deliver. Right?
They're just a solution to a problem, but they're not the answer.
Because when I want to watch Saving Private Ryan, I want to think the bullets are zooming by my head. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I got a question I'd like to ask. Poston's been a staple of this community for a long, long time, and you've done a lot of jobs. What's the most rewarding jobs that you do that you look back on and you're just like, man, that was fun to do, or that was just super rewarding?
Well, I'd say something like Double Dogs because you got so many people that go out there
and get to experience
and get
it.
to see it, and you know, and they haven't. When we first put that in, nobody ever seen anything like that around here. And the owner, he's a pretty visionary guy, so he's a great guy to work with, and he has some great ideas, and we got to put them, bring them to fruition. But yeah, going out there and seeing all that work and see people sitting around enjoying it, and that's the big benefit.
I guarantee you.
Yeah, doing because the thing about our business, we sell things that people don't need. They want it, so they generally, they come in wanting something better. So it's pretty easy to have a good outcome because they're getting something that's making their life more enjoyable.
Much better than what they've currently got. Yeah.
Better sound, or fixing their no sound, or something that is totally discretionary.
We got a lot of boaters listening, and during the break we talked a little bit about you've done a War Eagle before. John has a War Eagle, so basically you could basically hook. Let's say John had a big bow deck on it, had it all ready for bow fishing. You could basically take whatever somebody's got and work with them on their vision, and then both of you come to an agreement on what really needs to be done, right?
Yeah. Once we see the, whatever vehicle it is or a boat, it's just trying to get a plan to where things are going to go, and to make it sound like you want to, because a lot of times people don't know what they want until they get it, and they're like, wow, this sounds good. I want more.
Yeah, exactly. They become junkies.
Got the guy with the War Eagle goes, man, he goes, I like it. He goes, I want it louder.
Absolutely. I love it.
I bought another War Eagle. I traded that one in. He goes, what can we
do
this one make it better?
Yeah.
Better. So, hey,
that sounds like
sounds fun. Let's go.
Yeah, if one is good, two has to be better.
I've got some good installers that can, pretty much do anything.
Great teams over there.
It's like my home guys or my car guys, Tim and Kyle in the home, and Charlie and Bobby, in the garage.
Man,
we pretty much tell them, they have to make it happen.
I mean, you guys literally will reconstruct a trunk. I mean, it's the craziest thing. And you can take, I'm talking, I could roll in there with a 1962 Austin Healey, and you'd figure out a way to make that thing fun. Because I've seen you, and you're into these competitions too. Like, back in the day, we cruised them all. You remember? I mean, I remember seeing you there, and I was there, and I didn't have a great system, but some guys did have great systems, and most of them came from posting back then.
And there's still some competitions now. It's a little different than it used to be. Now it's just about how loud it is.
Well, and
because you can't judge it. It is what it is. So there's no feelings. It's pretty dry, like drag racing.
You guys had a Chevette during one of the competitions that you told me was like the national champion. It was like a Chevy. It was like a Chevy Chevette from like '82.
Well, we had a couple guys that worked there that they had some cars that won the whole circuit.
That's crazy.
That they competed in.
Talking about a spin-off show, I want a spin-off show of some stories from you guys cruising back in the day.
Oh, dude, listen, you can go find it. There's a
Cruising Kmart.
That thing goes further back.
That was ending when I started driving.
So you got the best of both worlds. You saw the end of the Kmart cruise and then the brand new Greenwood Mall cruise in like '82. I totally remember. I wasn't old enough to drive. I was there because I stole away in people's cars. I wanted to get out of Lindsayville, man. I didn't see nothing up there. That's great stuff. I mean, I could go on and on about posting and what the place represents. It represents old school Bowling Green, new wave Bowling Green. I mean, it's the best place, folks, to go get any kind of audio like that. I would say start there absolutely first, and ask for Mike Cornelius, because
come see me or Chris.
Super
got a new guy, Chris Keys. He's really knowledgeable in home audio, car audio, and we can find something for you.
And it goes beyond that too. We were talking about putting in remote starts to vehicles.
Yep. Yes.
And
that time of year is coming up. It's going to be hectic. Every year we do more and more, and it starts earlier. So
I was going to say, and I had a thought the other day, I felt like Dr. Brown hit my head. Doc Brown hit my head on the got the flux capacitor. Came up. I was thinking about you the other day, and I think about all my clients and all their businesses. It's just what goes through my head all the time. And I was like, we promote touchless start and electronic start, during the wintertime. But heck, man, that's a great thing for the summer when it's 102 degrees. You start that thing up, get that air conditioner rolling.
That's what I was telling John earlier. They're actually more beneficial this time of year because, when it's cold outside, you have a jacket on, gloves, etc. But man, when it's 150 degrees inside your car, there's no escaping.
There is none. It takes for. I lived in Vegas, man. It might be 160 in your car. Right?
We do a fair amount of remote starts in the summer.
Yeah, remote starts. I mean, that's I'd say year round. That's a good
thing to have during COVID-19.
Well,
also,
another good point, John. You'll have to touch touch those key ringers.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Mike, how do they get a hold of you down there if they got some questions? And I know you wanted to come on down to the store because it's better to do that. But if they can't get down there right now, they can find you guys online, obviously.
Yeah. We got a postelectronics.com. We're on Facebook. You can call the shop, 270-842-3122, and we will help you out. We have answers to your problems.
They are the audio whisperers, and I don't care if it's home, car, motorcycle. They probably put it on your 10-speed.
And if we don't have the answers, we can find somebody who does.
There you go. Well, there's no place else that I'm gonna look for it. Appreciate you being on the show today. It's funny he sponsors Sports Web, and I got him in here on the outdoor show. But
hey, that's fine. I've learned a lot.
That's pretty cool stuff. So get down there, Broadway 875. Been there for years, and we'll be there for many, many more years. Brian Webb here for John Kirby, Casey Warner, Josh Honeycutt, Michael Pendley, Realtree Outdoors, and appreciate everybody listening. John, take us out.
We'll be back next Wednesday, 4 o'clock. SOKY's Great Outdoors, 102.7.